indicators that you can just use over there, how they can just move into the market. Now, the last part that we are going to be talking about over here is what we call the we have the other like political event. Okay, so this is number 2. So number 2 is what we call geopolitical event. Okay, now when we have these things on geopolitical event, this can be, of course, a lot of things when we come to geopolitical event. Of course, we can talk something like politics. So when we talk about the politics right over here, politics can be something like this. For example, when there is a political unrest, you know, when there is chaos, when there is something that happening in a nation because of politics and something like that, investors actually run away, and people actually tend to not be laughing that currency at all. So anytime we see a political unrest, anytime we see something like that, you know, those are the things that you can see on the news, you know, political unrest, those things are about the politics. Those are the things, if there is something banned on the politics, actually on the certain news, you know, when there is political unrest, actually there is something like demonstrations, there is some wars, there is all those things, banned things happen to that nation, and they actually tend to bring something banned on that nation. And that's why we have this can make actually the strength of currency to weaken over here. In case there is a political unrest, it can just cause something like that. That is what you have to know about the politics, how they can just cause like that. Or maybe some politician are just throwing someone that are negative, and they can just cause some people to have bad sentiments on the currency pairs, the currency, and a lot of things that actually can cause the economy to deteriorate right over there. So the other thing when you come to geopolitical event over here is something like conflict. When we have conflict, or you can just call them war, okay? For example, let's say there's a nuclear bomb that has been thrown to a certain country. So what do you expect over there? A nuclear bomb just being thrown to a certain country, then you expect something like economy to be going down, something like that. The economy to go down. The war is continuing right over there. So a lot of things are going to be going down over there. Let's take an example like Ukraine. So on the Ukraine, right over there, maybe there's some bomb that has been thrown in the US, God forbid. I know people in the US, sorry. But let's say there's a bomb that has been thrown to US. We say in the US, the one that you're going to be using as an example. What do you expect to be happening over there, okay? A lot of negative impact on their currency is actually going to be happening right over there. So as a trader, anytime you just hear those things, you have to be attentive on the pairs that you trade. Because, for example, if you trade gold, you know what can just happen. People can dump this and maybe buy something else, you know. Yeah, so those are the things that you have to know. Conflict and war, this brings negative impact to the currency. So I think that is simple for you even to understand. The other thing that can cause is what we call the natural disaster. You know, natural disaster, we have something like the earthquakes, fire, you know, all those things can cause the currency to weaken. All those are negative things that causes a negative impact to the currency. Those are natural disaster. So those can cause the negative impact towards the currency pair. The other thing that we're just going to be talking about over here is what we call the trend development, and is that number 3, trend development. So all these things, you have to know them. And when we talk about the trend development, then we just be talking the last one, which is the monetary policy, actually where we just end up to, Sometimes when you can see something like natural disaster, when you see political unrest, sometimes government can come with policies that does not favor businesses. And that's where we have a lot of things bringing negative impact to the currency. Now, let's talk about the trade development. And actually, trade development is the agreement between the two countries. So between those two countries, we can have trade between two countries. There is something that happened negatively between those two countries, and that is where we can have difference. For example, some countries actually can maybe bring something that is not going, like for example, the way you see something on the Russia, okay? They bring sanctions, maybe they don't want to import their oil, things like that. There was something like that product. They refuse something like export. Here we are talking about the import and export, okay? And that agreement maybe is just a cut off. As a trader, you have to be following such things to know what has just happened in that thing. You can just hear something, for example, on the oil side, okay, on the demand of that oil. For example, there is something we were following. Let's just come back over here, like COVID-19. When there was COVID-19, that is going back to the geopolitical event, like COVID-19, when it just came, the demand for the oil actually just went down because there was no movement, The movement was not there. So if there was no movement, so you expect actually the price of something to be coming down. What if we trend mask? What if we trend the mask that we use to wear like this? So what do you expect? We expecting the price of the masks to rise higher. Why? Because there was demand. Because there was a very high demand. So that's how you can just be following up these things to know how they just perform over here. Trend development, these are things that actually happens between the countries, and that is what we call, this actually lies more on politics. These are very inside things that you can actually be following up to know what has been happening to them. Now, number 4, so we don't have a lot of things to talk on trend development. I don't want you to get confused over there. Number 4, which is our monetary policy. This is the last thing that actually you can just check over there, okay? Now, look at this. Monetary policy actually can just come after all these things. Economic indicators, after maybe we have identified something, then monetary policy is actually the decision that either Fed, the Bank of England, as the Central Bank of England that comes with it, to regulate so that the currency cannot just lose value, just like to regulate the economy. No, that is what we call the monetary policy. Monetary policy. And that's why we talked about the interest rate, open market operations, and all those things. So monetary policy. Monetary policy is the last thing that actually the government, or not the government, but the respective those who are on the top there, they can just come up with, like, for example, in the US, we have the Powell, who is the president there, and they can just come up with things that are going to be on the central bank to regulate the economy. Yeah, so those are the ones that we call the monetary policy, okay? So we have something like open market operation, we have the discount rate, those are things, okay? Public service announcement, and those are the things that you have to actually know right over there. Like when you talk about the open market operations, this is buying securities, interest rate when the inflation comes up. What they do is they increase the interest rate to regulate the inflation. When the inflation comes down, when the economy actually contrasts, what they do is that they cut off the interest rate so that to expand the economy. So that is what we call the monetary policy. Monetary policy. And the 5 things that you have to be checking, this is a bonus, is what we call the speeches. These are speeches that are offered by these people of the major countries that we trend. We have US, British over here, Bank of England, Japan, Bank of Japan there, okay? When these guys come over here, then you can be listening to them when they come up with these speeches. The reason being is that you can actually come with something we call them. We can just come up with the point over there, and not so many people actually follow this, but if you are good enough on these things, you can just be following up to know what is just opening right over there. For example, there's some data that are being released on the CPI. Sometimes you can see like the poll coming to speak right over there. And the point that we can just expect over there mostly is to see whether we are going to be having more hawkish on the wish right over there, okay? So that means, are we expecting to have more interest rate being raised or more interest rate being cut off? And the market actually tends to be very volatile when they are actually speaking. So those are the things that you have actually to be checking on the news. That's just a summary of it. 1 hour, 40-minute class. I hope maybe you have got something right over here. If you have any question, very amazing class. If you have any question, make sure that you can leave it in the comment section. We'll just be checking on it over there. Make sure if you love my content over there, make sure that you actually subscribe right over there. So it is nice to have heard you from the start up to this place. I hope maybe you have understood something that is going to be helping you so much over there. Sometimes I'm just be coming up to Forex calendar, and when we can just discuss everything that is there, how you can just implement them, you can practice and know what is just happening over there, and it's just going to be helping you so much. My name is Dan, so see you next time. Make sure that you subscribe. Peace. Bye-bye.